Hey everybody, my name is Paul Esden Jr., aka Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com, and welcome to the Jet Zone. And this is a New York Jets podcast I've been doing every week for the last decade. You get a new episode every Wednesday. You can, of course, recently we've been doing a live video stream, so thanks everybody for the support on that, by the way. We've been doing it on Facebook, on our Jet Zone Facebook page, on our Jet Zone Twitter page, and of course streaming live as well on my YouTube page, youtube.com/BoyGreen25. We got a lot to get to on today's show, but first off, before we go any further, make sure you take the time to hit the thumbs up on our YouTube video live stream, and also hit that subscribe button as well to show all your support, everybody. And by the way, we got, again, a great show coming for you guys today, and also this audio will be later uploaded. So wherever you listen to your podcast, the audio version will be there as well. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming in, and wherever you're watching. Again, we're streaming live simultaneously on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Make sure you drop in your questions or comments or topics of conversation you would like discussed here on the show. And like I said, you can also ask questions. This is an interactive show, so we'll get those in on the program today. I want to go do some breaking news first. The Atlanta Falcons just announced a little bit ago that they have released pass rusher Dante Fowler Jr., the former top 5 pick, the former Florida product who had some time with the Jaguars, some injuries, and kind of bounced around the league. He's been with the Rams, obviously. He's just with the Falcons. He's a guy that is interesting because the Jets have shown interest before. They would have loved to draft him. They would have loved to trade for him later in his career. They made some of those strides to attempt to do so. They would have loved to get him in free agency. But for one reason or another, this is a player the Jets have been linked to, but it has never come to fruition. This could be the opportunity for it to happen. And this is kind of intriguing for those who don't know, is that Dante Fowler, because he was released right now by the Atlanta Falcons, he is free to sign with any team right now. And so they don't have to wait for free agency, which, by the way, is a month and change into the future. The Jets could get a jump start, quite frankly, on their free agency campaign by bringing Dante Fowler in. And to me, that is a risk worth taking. Of course, always depending on the financials, of course. But you need pass rushers. You need as many bodies as possible because Robert Saleh likes to use a rotation in that pass rushing defensive line room. I think he would be a very intriguing piece to the puzzle. Keep an eye out for that. Again, the Falcons today, as we're recording this on February 16th in the early afternoon evening window, Falcons release Dante Fowler could be a fit with the New York Jets. Again, they've had interest in him previously. Now, we've had some regime changes at both general manager and head coach over the years of Fowler being in the NFL, but I'm telling you, this is a guy the Jets have liked in the past, and I could certainly see that fit there. So keep an eye out for that. Speaking of kind of breaking stories and news and bits of that nature, I do want to get into this interesting Daniel Jeremiah nugget that he tweeted out earlier today. And Daniel Jeremiah, of course, he's a longtime former NFL scout. He does great work for the NFL Network as one of their draft analysts. And he recently shared this out. And I agree, by the way. And I think it is certainly possible for the Jets to potentially get in the mix here. Here is his tweet from earlier today. The Jets and Giants could be pivotal players in the trade market. If you want to trade for a veteran quarterback like Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, or Aaron Rodgers, they could be the middleman, they being the Jets or Giants, and supply picks for proven players. In other words, the Jets or Giants sends picks to Team X. Team X sends proven players to the Jets or Giants, and then the other team sends picks for said quarterback. In other words, the Jets could be that third team. They could be the third wheel. Now, normally in a relationship, you don't want to be the third wheel. It's awkward. It's uncomfortable. You're on a date, you have a guy and a girl, and then there's some third wheel there. What are you doing there? But in this particular case, this would make a lot of sense for the Jets. Be that third team. Instead of picks where people have belabored the point that the Jets have been terrible at drafting on a grander scale. Again, 2021 draft looks pretty good. But on a grander scale that the Jets have kind of stunk with drafting, perhaps you could take that out of their hands, obviously, by being the third team and getting proven players. Guys, you know who they are. Connor Hughes brought up potentially the Philadelphia Eagles and the Joe Douglas, Howie Roseman connection. Now, that kind of makes sense, but I don't think it speaks to what Daniel Jeremiah was talking about. The team that the Jets would target in a potential 3-team deal like this would be someone lacking draft ammunition, and they would need the Jets to be that third wheel as part of that conversation. Like, for instance, Rich Cimini brought up the Indianapolis Colts. They do not have a first-round pick. Now, there's a lot of reports they could cut or trade Carson Wentz ahead of the new league year starting up in March. Now, the Jets could fill that pick void, but they could get proven players from the Colts, whoever that is. Would that be Quentin Nelson? Now, I'm just dreaming the impossible dream right now, but proven players like Quentin Nelson, proven players like Darius Leonard, those kind of pieces. Again, I don't know if that's really the team that would be interested, or those would be the players, but that's the point, is proven players. The Jets don't have to guess. They send around some of those picks to try to see if they could bring that in. And Daniel, you just missed it. We talked about it on YouTube that Dante Fowler was released, and that is a fit with the New York Jets. So keep an eye out for that. That would make a lot of sense. Also, let's put a couple of things up on the screen for you guys watching on our YouTube screen. First off, let's throw up the Jet Zone logo up there in the corner. Again, a weekly New York Jets podcast. Also, we're going to throw it up on the banner, and it's going to be scrolling down below. All you guys can find me on social media at BoyGreen25, BOY Green the color 25. Show your support. And again, we've been doing this Jets podcast for over a decade, and my YouTube channel, which is also streaming live right now, is New York Jets content 100% of the time. We have great shows, Mock Draft Mondays, every Monday from the end of the Jets season all the way through the NFL draft. We have a different guest on. We've had insiders on like Hunter Hughes. We've had draft analysts on like Derek Klassen of Bleacher Report. We just had him on the Monday episode. And we learn more about prospects and targets potentially for the New York Jets to discuss and analyze. And, of course, we do mock drafts every single week with each potential guest, which is always a lot of fun. So keep an eye out for all of that, guys. That's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it, and I love doing it with you guys again. So make sure you show your support. Let me just retweet this on the stream for everybody who's watching live. This is fantastic. Again, if you guys have questions or comments, feel free to send those questions or comments in during the show, and we'll answer them live here on the program, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Also, by the way, just throwing a couple of shout outs here, I'm going to be appearing on NYJ Today's YouTube channel later tonight. If you guys are listening live, you guys can check me out later tonight. I'll be doing a fun show with him, which I'm looking forward to. That should be a lot of fun, and I'll be doing some other media rounds, so that should be a lot of fun as well, so you guys can check that out. With that being said, let's dive into the questions here before I get into any more of that action. Vinny and the Jets. Yo, what's happening? How are you? Matthias, what's happening? Thumbs up. I love it. So again, wherever you're watching, feel free to show your support. Appreciate it. And like I said, we have another Mock Draft Monday coming up on Monday. But going back to this Daniel Jeremiah story real quick, which I find interesting. Again, the Colts would make a lot of sense potentially, as the Colts and whatever the quarterback team is, right? Houston Texans, Seattle Seahawks, Green Bay Packers, whoever that team is, that would be interesting. Now, normally this three-team construct, you don't see normally in the NFL. You more see that in the NBA for salary dumps and things of that nature, but that could certainly happen potentially with the New York Jets in the NFL. It's not as common, but I could certainly see it. So Daniel Jeremiah could be on that. Let's bring in Braden on YouTube. What a beautiful day. Dropping in a comment. Hello, Braden. It is beautiful. And we got Salmon. There's news. Of course there is. There's always news. Salmon Jets 718. There's always news to discuss. So again, we have Dante Fowler released. There could be interest there with the Jets. We have the Daniel Jeremiah nugget. Could be three-team trade possibilities. And speaking of trade speculation, I want to bring up this comment. We talked about it on previous episodes, but I put up my column this morning on it, so I want to talk about it. Jerry Jeudy, okay? Now, there's a lot of buzz about the Jets potentially trading for a wide receiver this offseason, right? We've heard Calvin Ridley. We've heard Amari Cooper. We've heard DK Metcalf. All kinds of names being thrown out into the ethos, okay? All kinds of names. Jerry Jeudy is a name. Now, is he going to be available? I am uncertain. I've talked to Denver Broncos people, and as late as November-ish of last year, they said there's no way. Despite the fact we just handed Cortland Sutton a big money deal, despite the fact we handed Tim Patrick a big money deal, and Jerry Jeudy, obviously a top 15 pick, they say neither of those deals affects Judy's future from Broncos people that I talked to. That was the words I got. But you know what? You got to make the call. You got to make the call. And in this particular case, especially with the regime change, obviously you had George Patton, who's running the operation there. You got a new head coach in Nathaniel Hackett. And I think all the Packers rumors are true. I think Aaron Rodgers could be in Denver. I think Devontae Adams could jump with him and go over to Denver as well. And if you do that, you have Devontae Adams, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, and Jerry Jeudy. Where do they all fit? I mean, there's only one football, and you can only get it to so many different guys. Perhaps Jeudy could shake free. And the other thing I love about Jeudy, among all these deals we've talked about, right? Calvin Ridley, Amari Cooper, all these guys, and they're all interesting. But why Jeudy perhaps is the most interesting for me is age. 22, I believe he turns 23 before the start of next season. He's still got a minimum of 2 more years left on his deal, plus the 5th-year option. So you have him controllable. I think the next 2 years are $9 million, a little less than that, a shade less. It's like 8.8, 8.9 million on his contract. So that's super manageable. Then you have the 5th-year option, which is okay. And you have a nice young receiver. By the way, for those who don't know, here's a little fun fact for you. Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore grew up together down there in Florida. They did some of those football workouts together as they're coming up the ranks. So Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore Instagrammed. I don't know what that is. I know for Twitter you tweet out, you gram out. I don't know. I don't know the latest lingo in social media world, but I digress. But whatever, he grammed it out, right? That Jeudy and Elijah Moore kind of grammed it out there that those two have a relationship, and they're happy for their success in the league. I'm telling you, that one could make a lot of sense. So if I'm the Jets and I'm calling, because again, they have to do their due diligence, they have to do their homework on a lot of these different deals and make calls. Jeudy would be one that I would kick the tires on and see what it would take, whether it's one of their high seconds and you combine another mid-rounder in there and try to see how that operates. I think there's a lot of untapped potential there with Jerry. Now, he's dealt with a couple of injuries, but more so the drops, which is weird because that wasn't really much of a factor heading into kind of his draft profile, so to speak, coming in. But Jeudy could be one of those guys that I find very interesting, very interesting. So that could be something to keep an eye out for as well. Let's jump into some more comments here. This is from Raw Power on YouTube. Love being the third wheel. Get to have all the fun without the commitment. Booyah! That's what it is in life too, right? I better not speak too loud. My fiance lives here, so just kidding on that. But in all seriousness, though, that's it. Is that you're like moving some product here, but you're like not even the main squeeze, right? The big deal is like Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers to the other team, and that team sending something over to the Jets, and then the Jets throwing some picks in to satisfy the sides. Like that to me is tantalizing. Now I want to see who else could be. Again, Rich Amini's brought up the Colts. I like the Colts. The Colts have a great relationship with the Jets. Rex Hogan and all those front office people have a great relationship. That would make sense to me. Who are the pieces moving around? The quote-unquote proven players the Jets could potentially land there. That I'm very intrigued with. Now, I'm going to sprinkle in while we're kind of having this chat here on the Jet Zone. Again, thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure if you're just listening to the audio feed, make sure you give your reviews, of course, on iTunes, and give your comments and things of that nature on the show. Would really appreciate that. But with that being said, we're going to sprinkle some other news here while we're having this live chat. I really love the live stream element of the Jet Zone. A couple of in-house items. First off, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, which of course is the offensive lineman the Jets traded for at a trade deadline buzzer deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. They gave up reserve tight end Daniel Brown for LDT, and quite frankly, it's quite rare for player-for-player swaps to happen in trades. We saw it a couple years ago with the Jets. Remember, they got DeMario Davis back in exchange for Calvin Pryor. You saw it with this LDT Daniel Brown deal. Again, it's quite rare for that sort of thing to happen. But the Jets, not only is that rare in itself, but it's also rare to get a starting caliber offensive lineman in the middle of the year. And that's exactly what the Jets did. And then they ended up getting Daniel Brown back later, which is the ultimate FU, the ultimate up yours to the Chiefs, right? They get the player from the Chiefs, and then they get their own player back. Phenomenal work by Joe Douglas, and LDT was very solid, very nice at right guard. Well, anywho, LDT was doing Super Bowl media interviews. That's quite common for a bunch of these players leading up. They're promoting something, right? His was like the Sleep Number mattress or something. Like, players promote something, but then they do interviews. That's normally how it works around the Super Bowl. And well, LDT did a couple of interviews and said basically that I want to be with the Jets. I want to stay here with the Jets, which is great to hear. But also, he said it's not even about the money. He said it's about the culture fit and all of that I loved with the Jets. These are just kind of paraphrasing of what LDT said. I think that's phenomenal to hear that from a guy from the outside, a guy who won a Super Bowl somewhere else and was really good with the Chiefs. And then he suddenly became free for a variety of reasons. His medical career, he had to opt out in 2020. He had the broken hand, which kind of, changed the Chiefs' plan of attack. And long story short, it made him available, and the Jets took full advantage. So to hear those kind of things come from LDT, to me, makes me say, okay, whatever Saleh and Douglas are doing is working, and it's fantastic. So I absolutely loved hearing that sort of thing from LDT. That makes a man feel good, quite frankly, and I love that. So a huge shout out to LDT, and hopefully he comes back because at a minimum, the depth and competition would be great, and maybe he's even your starter at right guard. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll talk about the mock drafts here in a second, but whether you're going to go, Ike Ekwonu and you draft him at tackle, and then you can maybe kick him inside to guard, that obviously is possible if they want to go in that direction, potentially. So again, there's a lot to be decided here. We're talking about this on February 16th, as opposed to what's going to happen with the draft and with free agency. But LDT, regardless of the options, is a guy I would really love to have back if I'm the New York Jets. I would really love to bring him back in the building. And speaking of bringing back in the building, potentially here, Mike White. Now, there is some rumors and speculation coming from Rich Cimini, who's covered the New York Jets for over 30 years for ESPN. There are some rumors and speculation that teams would be interested in Mike White as a restricted free agent. Now, some of you may not know this. I'm going to run through what all that means, okay? So a restricted free agent, basically what it means is they go out in the free agent pool and they can sign an offer with another team, but the Jets have the rights to first refusal. So Mike White was originally a fifth-round pick of the Dallas Cowboys back in 2018. If the Jets slapped an original tender on Mike White, he'd be hanging out there, and if a team signed him to an offer sheet and the Jets didn't match, they would have a week to do so. They would let Mike White go and have that cap relief, obviously, and then they would get a fifth-round pick in return in this upcoming draft. That obviously would be pretty intriguing to the Jets. While they don't have another quarterback under contract not named Zach Wilson, they really want to bring back Joe Flacco, and really this Mike White exit could actually work out great. They get a draft pick for him, they get Joe Flacco, who would be their backup anyway, and then they save a couple of bucks. Now, I love Mike White. He's a cool story, and I think he proved to be a capable long-term backup. The Jets haven't had one of those in a long time. But the interesting thing from Rich Cimini is that if the Jets place that original round tender, which is the plan right now from the Jets side of things, there are apparently multiple teams that would be interested in signing Mike White to an offer sheet and thus giving up the fifth round pick for White. That would be fascinating and very interesting to hear from Rich Cimini. So we're going to obviously have to keep a very close eye on that potentially coming to fruition. And I could certainly see it. If the Jets don't want to lose Mike White, they could, of course, increase the tender level, and they could increase it as high as, let's call it a second round pick, right? And in that case, they would have to pay him, instead of $2.4 million for this year, they'd have to pay him $4 million for this year. Now we're getting into funky money with backup quarterbacks and throwing your money around. Joe Flacco made $3.5 million last year for the Jets, so you throw in $4 million potentially for Mike White, and that's a lot of money in the quarterback room. And then obviously the elephant in the room is if you sign Mike White to that tender, okay, if a team signs him, then you get a second-round pick in return, and I think we can all agree that's far less likely to happen than a fifth-round pick. So something interesting to keep an eye out for in the Mike White situation. Apparently teams will be interested if he is on that original round tender, which again would be a fifth-round pick. And what that means is if the Jets allow him to go and someone signs him to an offer sheet and the Jets say, you know what, we'll just take the fifth-round pick, they'll let him walk, and they get a fifth-round pick upcoming in the 2022 NFL Draft. And by the way, the Jets have a lot of picks, and maybe another pick potentially comes into play. Now, real quickly to kind of wrap up this conversation is Zach Wilson is obviously super cheap. He's on his rookie deal, relatively cheap, all things considered, for quarterback play. So you have him. And to me, I know Robert Saleh said he wants to bring the whole quarterback room back, Joe Flacco and Mike White. To me, if you can allow Mike White to leave and then but you need a backup, whoever that is, Nick Foles, if he shakes free from Chicago, Joe Flacco, potentially, that's fine. But you need a backup quarterback, so I'm not denigrating that need. But if you can insert Joe Flacco and all you have to give up is money, essentially, and then Mike White, you let him leave, I think that could be a very interesting scenario. Let's go through some of the comments here. Salmon Jet 718, geez, $4 million. That's too much for Mike and Joe Flacco. If it was both of them, just to confirm, it would be $7.5 million. It would be $4 million only for Mike White on the second round tender level, and Joe Flacco would probably at least want the $3.5 million back. So you'd be paying essentially $7.5 million for your backup quarterback and third string quarterback situation, which again would be quite rich for the position. So something to keep an eye out for there. Salmon Jets, who's commenting in on YouTube. And same thing for Matthias. No way I'm paying Mike White for $4 million, and neither am I. Personally, I think you do the fifth round tender, which again is $2.4 million. And if he signs another offer sheet, you can either choose to match or take the pick or move on. I don't think I go to the $4 million level either, Matthias. I think we're on the same page. All right, let's go over to It's Snoopy on YouTube. If the Jeremiah rumors come true about the Jets being potentially involved with a 3-team trade, I trust JD will get us a epic haul. I absolutely do as well. We have no choice not to believe that, quite frankly, It's Snoopy. Look at the haul. Look at the consistent package here when you look at Jamal Adams, Sam Darnold, Chris Herndon. He's gotten more value back than we could possibly imagine. Now, in one of those potential deals, I would imagine maybe 35 or 38 is involved, and then another mid-round pick. I mean, it would be blockbuster for that pick to be number 10 overall, potentially, unless it is a super complicated deal where you're trading back as part of the package. I could see them moving one of those mid-rounders, again, second or third round, as part of that epic blockbuster deal to get it over the top. And again, the Jets get proven players back. And again, luckily for the Jets, they have a million needs. So that proven player could come at safety. That proven player could come at corner. That proven player could come at edge rusher. That proven player could be tight end, wide receiver, offensive lineman, etc. So there is again, the world is the oyster, so to speak, from that standpoint. But I would love to see that three-team potential trade really intrigues me on a lot of different levels. All right, let's go to Raw Power on YouTube. All depends if Flacco has accepted that he is no longer a starter. Seems to have been struggling with this. No question, Raw. That's been happening over the last couple of years. I think now it is more fully entrenched, quite frankly. I think, old Betsy is kind of called home here, so to speak. I agree. Joe Flacco struggled with that with the Lamar Jackson flip, and then he went to Denver, and then with the Jets last year. I think there was a lot of and it's uncomfortable. It's like, I compare it to wrestling, right? You get to those guys like Ric Flair and all those guys at the end of their careers, and they're not quite the same. But the point is embracing whatever your new role is, and then you can move on. Like if you're stuck in your old ways, that's how players ultimately get kicked out of the league. They can't accept the fact that they're no longer a backup or whatever the case. You have to adapt or die, quite frankly. So that is a key, though. And that's really, I'll go back because, people may freeze and cold take me here. I was not a fan of bringing Joe Flacco in a bunch of years ago. He's been rumored for a long time, back in the Denver days and even Baltimore days. And, to me, the reason why I didn't want Joe Flacco in is he has a questionable history with developing and hanging out with young quarterbacks. Look what he did with Lamar. He said you can learn on your own, basically. Denver, from everything I've heard, he was a crappy teammate, like a guy that didn't really support the rest of the quarterbacks. Like he just wanted to be the starter, and he was selfish and it's all about me. And, quarterbacks need that cut of the jib, so to speak, to be able to succeed. So you need that bravado, that confidence. But at the same time, that could be detrimental in the room. But from everything I pick up, Joe Flacco has a great relationship with Zach Wilson. So that is a big key. That's a big key. Let's go to Neil Glassman on YouTube. Who do you want coming in if Zach gets hurt? I'd much rather have Mike White over Flacco. I'm going to be honest, Neil. I can kind of go either or. The fact of the matter is this. I look at it from this standpoint. I think it's a coin flip, basically. I think Flacco is a solid guy that can come in. I think Mike White has proven to show some chutzpah and some pop, but quite frankly, is Mike White cool just being a backup forever? Maybe he is, and that's great. And he could just be your solid, reliable guy for his career. Or maybe, as he said, when he kind of got the smell of the potato chips, right, in the Bengals game, saying, you know what, I think I could be a starter. And maybe that kind of disrupts the room. So who do I want coming in? To me, it's a coin flip. The fact of the matter is you're not getting draft pick compensation potentially for Flacco. It's coming from Mike White. And I think, again, that could be tantalizing for the Jets to hit the exit button, maintain what they believe is a good backup quarterback in Flacco, and still get a fifth-round pick. I think that's how Joe Douglas is going to operate. Matthias on YouTube, Joe Douglas could get us a few more picks before the draft. Trader Joe, 100%. We will see. I don't know who else is on the roster that they could ship off to get more picks in outside of the 3-team deal stuff and things of that nature. So we'll keep an eye on that to see. Outside of Mike White, though, I don't think there's another player they could trade ahead of the new league year, but we'll keep an eye on that. Matthias, again, don't let that one game by White sucker you. And it certainly hasn't for me, Matthias, to be honest with you. The Bengals game was great, but he imploded. I was there for the Buffalo game, unfortunately. I paid the tickets. I went the whole distance. I did the full court press on the Jets experience, and I was obviously deflated. I was hoping for a good game. They got their teeth kicked in. And so the one Mike White game doesn't sucker me, but I've noticed it suckered a lot of Jet fans into it. I think he's a solid backup. That's what he showed. He's a solid backup that can start you, and especially in a system like this where he seems super comfortable. But besides that, I'm not going over the moon here and saying the second coming of Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm not going to quite go to that standpoint. Matthias, that's a good point. The player wouldn't jump to me on the top of my head, but Denzel Mims obviously could be a player. He flips for draft compensation. We will see. The talk of the town is that Mims, the value isn't great, but if anyone could get good value for him, it would obviously be Joe Douglas. That's a good point. Wasn't thinking clearly. Denzel Mims is a great example of a guy who he could flip potentially for picks. Also, I'm going to do another plug back to the Mock Draft Monday episode that came out on my YouTube channel. Again, go to the playlist Path to the 2022 NFL Draft. Again, every week I have a different insider, analyst, what have you on. And I had Derek Klassen on of Bleach Report. He covers the NFL Draft for Bleach Report and also does work for Football Outsiders. And one of the conversations we kind of explored, and it's an interesting conversation, is what if the Jets wait on edge rusher? Again, I want Kayvon Thibodeau. If he's there at 4, I'm running the pick up to the podium. And the Giants and all these other teams like Todd McShay's mock where Kayvon slips to 5, not over my dead body. Kayvon Thibodeau is going to be a Jet if I have anything to do with it. Absolutely. But if the Jets choose to wait, right, like Aiden Hutchinson or Thibodeau are off the board, which is completely within the realm of possibilities, what if they wait on edge? And I think there are names that, Derek kind of brought up potentially. George Karlaftis, Boye Mafe, Jermaine Johnson, David Ajabo, whoever your guy is. Again, Ajabo of Michigan, Johnson of Florida State, Boye Mafe of Minnesota, Karlaftis of Purdue. Whoever your guy is, I think there's a lot of depth here at pass rusher that potentially you could pivot to, whether it's there at 10, whether you trade back or what have you. I think there's a lot of interesting factors there too to keep an eye out for. All right, let's jump into some more comments here. Vinny and the Jets. If the Jet flip Mike White for a draft pick, I would not be upset the least bit. He's nobody at the end of the day. I mean, that's how I see it, Vinny. No offense to Mike White. It was a cool thing in the moment, in the season, but if you can flip him for a pick, this is a business. All right, let's go to Matthias here. Do you think they pick up an offensive lineman in free agency? God, I hope so. I would love to retain LDT. I think that makes a ton of sense. Morgan Moses is a bit tougher because he wants a starting job. You can't guarantee that right now. So maybe, as much as he talked up the team, maybe that's just a fit that doesn't make sense. If he's cool, like signing with the team and then fighting for a spot, absolutely, I'd bring Moses back. And then in terms of generic free agency, I like any offensive lineman that's got some level of versatility. James Daniels certainly stands out to me from Chicago as an option. They could choose to go in that direction. I will tell you one offensive lineman, I'm going to make a whole spiel about this here. There is one offensive lineman I don't want the Jets to sign under any circumstances. And this is a guy, and I wrote about him this week, that Jet fans have been connected to for a long time, hoping that they would get this guy, and that is Brandon Scherff of the Washington Commanders. Got to get used to that, the Commanders, okay? And this is a guy that, quite frankly, on paper is among the best interior offensive linemen in the NFL, and that's great. And the Jets have a gaping hole at right guard. Brandon Scherff, in theory, could plug and play there. But here's where I have my concern. This guy hasn't had a fully healthy season since 2016. It's 2022, people. And he's missed a variety of games. The age is a question. The last 2 years he's played on the franchise tag, and the fact of the matter is, why hasn't he signed a long-term deal with Washington? I think they have some level of hesitation with the amount of money that's going to be going on. So to me, I think he's too old. I think he's too broken down. And I don't think he's suddenly going to find the magic pill of youth here with New York where all of a sudden he's just fully healthy and operating and firing on all cylinders. I just don't think that's going to happen. So for me, this is a classic free agency bust scenario for the Jets. They would sign this guy, they'd bring him in, he'd never be healthy, and he'd be one of those classic vintage free agency busts for the New York Jets. So I would avoid Scherf like the Black Plague. And there are a lot of Jet fans out there that want Scherf here, and I'm telling you guys, you don't want him. Here's what I would say. And here's one of my biggest points for it. Scherf is going to command somewhere in the ballpark of 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 million, somewhere in there. We'll see if the bidding gets crazy in free agency, and it often does. Like, I'm not throwing that kind of money at this old-ass guard. No offense, people. But he just doesn't tickle my fancy. I would much rather split that money up and throw it among several free agents as opposed to putting all my eggs, excuse the Easter pun here, all in one basket. Brandon Scherf is not a guy that I'm pounding the table for saying, hey, we need to sign this guy. I'm not getting fired over this. Screw that. Sorry, Scherf. Yeah, he just doesn't do it for me. Allow some other crazy team, like the Carolina Panthers, who are desperate for offensive lineman help. Allow them to throw the bag at Scherf. That's not what I want to dive in. If I'm wrong in a couple of years, so be it. I am not willing to dip my toe in that water. Too expensive, too injury prone, just bleh. No, thank you. I don't want anything to do with that. So I've heard a lot of people bringing that up. Okay, let's go to some more comments here. Braden, let's see, on YouTube, our draft class is already going to cost us close to 20 million. Do we really need more picks? Can we afford extra? That's a great point. I think a lot of that draft pick number essentially is a lot of the first round, because having a number 4 overall pick, a number 10 overall pick eats a lot of that up. So I think you can. And plus another factoid, of course, is just because you move picks into the future. If they drop back from 10, the Chicago package of picking up an additional first rounder in the future. So the more picks, the better. It's the more options you have. You're not stuck to it. I mean, unless you're John Idzik with 12 picks, apparently, you're stuck with every pick that you have, but you can be flexible. So, but again, also with the 3-team scenarios that we discussed, that would be the Jets throwing picks out to bring proven players in. So that's another factor to keep in mind there. Big Green on YouTube. Congrats, Boy Green. Yes, my daughter, Zariah Luna, she's approaching a month here very quickly, a month old, which is crazy to think. And again, thank you guys for all the comments. She just had her first photo shoot this week. Again, I know I'm that annoying dad on social media. I try to bring it to a minimum on Twitter. I apologize for throwing her down your guys' throats. But yeah, she had her first photo shoot. And again, I had a little something in my eye. But I'm tough. I'm tough. I can power through. But that was great to see. Thank you so much for the kind comments. And from all of Jet social media land, really appreciated the words. Keep it simple, RC. Hearing good things about Mafe. Again, he is dynamic. I tweeted out the video of Todd McShay talking about it in the first draft show. I love that show. It's got Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, and Field DH. Great show. May have to get some of them on a mock draft Monday in the future. Keep you posted on that. But yeah, Mafe is a freak. He was great at the Senior Bowl. The Jets coached him down at the Senior Bowl. A terrific talent. A lot of untapped potential, was exponentially better each year of his college career from sacks and tackles and everything else. He's dynamic. Now, entering the Senior Bowl, he was probably a day 2 pick, somewhere in that second round range. But obviously, his stock has been surging, and there's 2 more opportunities to keep that stock surging even more. Of course, we have the NFL Combine at the end of the month, which is the first week of March. And then you have the Minnesota Pro Day, which is in the middle of March. So those are 2 big opportunities for that stock to continue to rise. And for a lot of people mentioned first round. Now, people say all the time with first round grades, wow, there's 20 guys with first round grades. You know, they say that. Or they'll say like, oh, 50 guys have a first round grade. Well, there's only 32 teams. So somebody's going to slip. But Mafe is a guy I would love. If the Jets trade back from 10, go to 10 to the 20s maybe, and they pick up Mafe, or they launch up from 35 or 38 and jump up. There's a lot of movement, a lot of options for the Jets, but I love Boye Mafe. Keep it simple, RC, again on YouTube. If you're flipping white, it better be for something in the 2 to 4 range. Quality backups are a luxury. I'll explain this one more time. Mike, it's not a choice from that perspective, like you're flipping him from that. It's already predetermined based on what tender they give Mike White. So they can do it original tender, 5th rounder, or a 2nd rounder. They can jump in there. It's not like they're going to negotiate with the other team. Restricted free agency is slotted in based on what the Jets are going to do. And for what I'm hearing, the original tender is there, and they would think about the 2nd rounder, but that also is going to factor in Joe Flacco. So quality backups are a luxury. So maybe the Jets are going to match no matter what. But we will keep an eye on that and see. But that's going to be a tough conversation. Let's go to Matthias. Agree. No way. Old and broken down. Yes, he is. No way, Sheriff. Sorry, man. Go screw with another NFL franchise. All right, let's go to NY Jets fan 4 on YouTube. The Jets need to bring back LDT and Moses plus draft someone. We need to start having quality. The word must have kind of spazzed out there. I'm assuming quality with this team in depth and things of that nature. But yes, again, I think LDT is going to be back. Moses is uncertain because, again, he's going to want a starting gig. I don't think the Jets can guarantee that. In terms of drafting someone 100%, if you bring back LDT as the starter and then draft a guy on day 2 or even early day 3 as a guard that could develop for a year or 2, and then LDT passes the torch to him, I'm perfectly okay with that. I think that would be a good plan for the Jets. Again, better depth, the better. Braden, I like watching Sheriff play, but he's not for us 100%. I like it. He's got a little nasty to him, but again, the injuries, the age, I'm just not interested. All right, let's go to Raw Power. I'm hearing some say to cut Rankins for the money. I'd keep him. Think he could be very good on an improved line. Again, I've heard the conversations. We talked about it, I think, a couple weeks ago with Ritzamini, who said the Jets could cut Sheldon Rankins and then bring back Sheldon Richardson, who I love, by the way. I love Sheldon Richardson. Also, the questionable character thing was a good point brought up by people in the past. But I love Rankins, man. I thought he was very solid. I think he's only going to be better. So, and I don't think the money's too crazy. I know everyone wants to get more money and things of that nature. I would keep Sheldon Rankins. I think he's a good player and a good locker room guy too. NY Jets fan 4. We can't have a bunch of new guys every year like the past. That leads to slow starts for most teams, and we can't afford that, which is going to bring up interesting questions, obviously, about Foley Fatukasi, Braxton Berrios. Again, do you just hit the reset button and bring some new rando in, whether from the draft or free agency, or do you keep your guys? It's a tough conversation. You can't just bring guys back for the sake of bringing them back, but I think that's a strong point. That's a strong point, NY Jets fan 4. Back to YouTube. Vinny and the Jets. If the Jets can somehow land Linderbaum in the draft to play center, you could slide McGovern to right guard, and your line is set. Again, we've said this every week. I will continue to bash that drum. I would have done that this year. I would have done it last year with Corey Linsley, Creed Humphrey, whoever, and I would do that. We'll see if the Jets feel confident about that. Here's one thing to keep an eye out for. If Linderbaum starts dropping, possible. He could just go in the top 10 and be the Quentin Nelson, right? He's just so good, regardless of draft position. You just take him and go. That's possible for the Jets. But another possibility is he starts slipping because of positional value, and then the Jets can either trade up from 35 and sneak in Linderbaum. That would be a very Joe Douglas kind of move. I could see that. And Linderbaum would be great. I'd love to do that. I'm not sure if the Jets are going to want to do that. Let's see here. Jeff Seawald on YouTube. Welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Thibodeau or Hamilton at 4, Linderbaum at 10, or if not there, trade down and pick up Penning to play guard and backup tackle. Okay, so Thibodeau, I'm in complete agreement. I love Thibodeau. Hamilton, I've been back and forth on. Again, we've had some great pitches. Ryan Roberts was the first guest on my Mock Draft Monday series, and he gave a phenomenal pitch for why Kyle Hamilton makes sense. And maybe they do, maybe they don't. Again, I'm just so scarred by the Jamal Adams thing, and I know that they're completely different players still, just taking a safety that high. It really, you'd have to explain to me the free agency pitch to pair with that for me to feel good. I don't think Linderbaum goes at 10. Maybe they trade back or trade back up to get him at the back end of round 1, but that's the only way I see it. And Trevor Penning, they love a lot. He could play tackle or guard. Super nasty guy, but he's not a perfect prospect. There's a lot of stuff that has to be smoothed out. We'll see if the Jets are willing to do that. They were a big fan at the Senior Bowl, though. Let's go to Double J. I want Sauce Gardner at 10. He's a damn stud. I love Sauce. I can't say that enough. He's my number 1 corner in this class. He is stupid talented. Look at the analytics and advanced metrics from last year. I mean, he was just so elite. And I would love a true number 1 corner. And you got to love the name, too. That doesn't hurt. So I would love Sauce. We'll see if he's there at 10. There is a lot of buzz. He could go inside the top 10. So keep an eye out for that. The Giants and their staff really love corners. I could see that happening. Keep it simple, RC. Would you double dip at edge? Absolutely, I would. Whether you go Thibodeau at 4 or some combination, get Boye Mafe at the top of the second round, maybe Karlaftis falls similar to a couple years ago. We saw it with the Buffalo Bills. AJ Epinesa, the pass rusher we thought was going to be a first-round pick, and Jet fans like, ugh, don't give me AJ Epinesa. Ends up falling in the 50s to the Bills. That could happen to Karlaftis or one of these other guys, David Ajabo, Jermaine Johnson, whoever. Again, everyone can't just go at the top of the draft. I would 100% double dip. The more the merrier. The more the merrier there. Let's go to some more comments here. Braden, if we re-sign Moses, then look out for the Jets draft Kenyon Green instead of one of the. I love Kenyon Green. That would okay, Braden. You guys are coming up with some great ideas. I'm going to be out of a show soon because you guys are going to have all your own shows with all these great ideas. I love that. That's interesting. I like Kenyon Green. NY Jets fan 4 on YouTube, in my opinion, this year should be all about O-line, D-line, and tight end safety, or excuse me. In my opinion, this year should be all about O-line, D-line, and tight end. Safety can be addressed in free agency and later rounds. I agree. I do think there are going to be ways. I brought up Terrell Edmonds. I've not brought him up yet on the show, but Jeremy Fowler listed him as a free agency fit with the New York Jets, so you could certainly go in that direction. I think he's a great value. His OTC approximation value for next year was around $8 million. And if you think of guys like Jesse Bates and Marcus Williams, their price tag is $14-15 million plus per year. Edmonds is half that at $8 million, and he's a super durable guy, playmaker, 5 picks in 4 years, and plays all his games. Terrell Edmonds, keep an eye out for that on later rounds, or free agency safety value. They could certainly go in that direction. Matthias here on YouTube. Hamilton is going to kill it at the combine. Hamilton's going to kill it. Boye Mafe is going to kill it. I'm trying to find some other names here. There's just going to be combine warriors is what we call them. Vernon Golston, unfortunately, was a couple years ago. And sometimes it's great and sometimes it's bad. Byron Jones, another great example. He was an athletic freak coming out of UConn, and he lit the combine world on fire. DK Metcalf was another combine warrior who lit up the world. So sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. I love the combine, though. Underwear Olympics, I love it. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. I love all the evaluations, the 40-yard dashes and what have you. It's so cool. All right, let's go. David Goodstein on YouTube, Hamilton and Sauce. I think that's what's, David, you're going to say that and probably get a lot of hate in the chat, but, a lot of people are going to be upset because they don't think the Jets should double dip in the secondary. And I lean towards agreeing because that's like the Jets in, I think it was 2017, where they went Jamal Adams, Marcus May back to back, and all of a sudden safety solved. Like that's kind of a luxury spot to double dip there. I think they need front seven presence. I think they need offensive line. I think they need, weapons. I just feel like that would be kind of a luxury move there. But I see what you're saying. Tight end around 2, or right, a Trey McBride or Ruckert or, whoever your flavor is. I could see the pitch, David, but I think a lot of fans are going to be mad at you in the comments. NY Jets fan 4, double dip at edge. Tight end is a must this draft. I would double dip, as I've said for weeks. I'd get a free agency guy, again, OJ Howard, David Njoku, whoever, one guy free agency, and then pair him with the draft guy. So you don't put all your eggs in one basket and a guy gets hurt, and then you're kind of screwed in the same position as before. Matthias, if you could get to the quarterback and cover in the back end, your defense will get better fast. That's true. You can cover a lot. You can mask a lot of holes when you have really good pass rush. That's why I want Kayvon Thibodeau with every fiber of my being. All right, let's go to JJ here on YouTube. Is it worth it to take Icky at 4 when he will likely be our right guard? I just don't love the value of a guard in the top 5. JJ, that's a phenomenal question, and let me answer it. I'm fine with getting Icky because I don't think he projects as a long-term right guard. Even if he is, like Quentin Nelson, right? He went 6 overall, and he's one of the best guards in all football. But I think it's more so the insurance. You draft him in for now, maybe. Let's say perfect world, right? George Fant wins left tackle, Mekhi Becton shifts over to right tackle, and you have Icky there at right guard. So now you have perfect insurance because if Mekhi Becton never reaches his full potential, he's going to be gone in a matter of time anyway. George Fant only has 1 year left on his deal, and you have perfect insurance for Zach Wilson. So Icky can play left tackle. Maybe he could play right tackle. I don't know. We'll see with the positional versatility and what he means to the team. But I get your point of positional value, and I say the same thing with safety. But at the same time, I wouldn't look at it like that. I would look at it as perfect insurance. And that kind of insurance to protect your young quarterback in Zach Wilson, a guy that, again, George Fant is only signed through next year. Mekhi Becton has not proven that he can stay healthy. So by having Icky, you have the ultimate insurance, and he can help right now. It's not like it'd be one thing if you draft Icky and he's purely a backup. Like, you can't use a number 4 overall pick on a backup, but a guy who can immediately start and help, and then also help in a further sense by flipping to tackle in the next year. I think that changes the conversation entirely there, JJ. But great question. Great question. A lot of people have asked about that. Back to Raw Power on YouTube. Seems like Jermaine Johnson is getting a lot of momentum. will even grow if he kills at the combine. I fully expect him, quite frankly, to kill it at the combine, but I think the number 4 overall pick talk is crazy. I saw that from Jets X Factor this week on a mock. That's too much. That's, whoa, we're drinking way too much Kool-Aid. I think he could be an option at number 10. Even that seems a little rich, but maybe number 10. But he is going to kill it at the combine. So maybe that conversation changes. And that's part of the thing I really love about the draft process is players rise and fall. Remember, a couple years ago, Orlando Brown, old Tubby at the combine, had one of the worst combines I've ever seen. And went from like first-round pick to mid-round pick, and the Ravens got a great value, ultimately traded to the Chiefs. But, like, you know, things are going to happen. The Randy Gregory marijuana thing, the Laramie Tunsil bong video at the draft, like wild things happen in draft season, which makes you shoot up boards or shoot down boards or what have you, and things are going to happen. Like, remember Josh Allen and the racial thing right on draft day. I mean, there have been a million things that happen, and I love that about the process because, again, guys, it's very fluid, a very fluid process there. So that's something potentially to kind of keep an eye on. But I think he 100% will. I think that's 100% he will kill it at the combine. Okay, we're getting a lot of new comments in here, so let me jump around here. Wow. David Goodstein, Hamilton and Sauce creates a Legion of Boom 2.0. Okay, David, you've sold me now. If you're giving me Legion of Boom, okay, baby. I love that. Legion of Boom, baby. Of course, you had Richard Sherman, you had Cam Chancellor, you had all those dudes out there. Earl Thomas, like, okay. Now you got me. And Brandon Browner was that other corner for those who forget that. So, okay, Legion of Boom. I like that. Keep it simple, RC. What positions, life or death, does JD need to address in the draft? It's hard for me to answer this without knowing free agency because once free agency happens, we will probably have some idea of life or death kind of situations here. But in general sense, again, it's helping your young quarterback, Zach Wilson, whether that be protection, whether that be playmakers, and also doing a solid for Saleh. You know, Joe Douglas in his short career here as the Jets GM has never used a top 2-round pick on a defender. It's been all offense. Again, we've talked about it before. Mekhi Becton, Denzel Mims. You had Zach Wilson, Elijah Vera Tucker, and Elijah Moore, like no defender. So Roberts, I will also be like, hey, give a brother a solid here. So it's impossible to answer that right now to address in the draft because he could fix something in free agency. So that would kind of back us up there. But that could be something to watch. But in general sense, offensive line, tight end, I'll change the question to offseason. You need life or death to have at least one tight end, if not two. You need to get a number 1 wide receiver. And you can do it whatever way you want. Want to do it in free agency? Mike Williams or whoever your guy is? Chris Godwin? Okay, great. You want to draft a guy? Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Treylon Burks? Okay, phenomenal. Trade for a guy? Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper? I don't care how you do it. You can skin a cat a million ways. Whatever way you want to skin it, you got to get me, again, at least one tight end, if not two, a number 1 wide receiver, a starting right guard, not named Greg Van Roten would be nice. And give me a pass rusher, man. Pass rush. I don't care how you do it. Chandler Jones, Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't care. That's life or death for me. That has to happen. Matthias here. Hamilton is going to amaze coaches at the combine. Watch, it could go top 3. I certainly hope so. Houston is a good, again, they pride themselves. Think of Nick Caserio, the New England background, corner play, safety play, Stephon Gilmore, and how much they value that. Kyle Hamilton could go 3rd overall. That's probably the highest I could see him going. I think Lions Aiden Hutchinson is a foregone conclusion if he's on the board. Number 1, I feel like, is offensive lineman, whether it's Icky or Evan Neal. And then 3rd is a complete wild card. But that's the earliest he can go. It would be great for the Jets, I think. Go to JJ here. Thanks. Great answer to my previous question. My ideal draft is Thibs at 4, Gardner at 10, trading one of our second rounders for a proven wide receiver, McBride with our other second rounder. Mwah! Chef's kiss, JJ. You're hired. Phenomenal. That I would love to see that. Thibodeau is my dream pick. Last year, my dream pick was Elijah Vera Tucker. We got him. Booyah. My dream pick this year is Thibodeau. And I love Sauce too. He would be another dream-like pick. But Thibodeau is number 1. But yeah, proven wide receiver, whoever that is, Cooper, Judy, Calvin Ridley, I don't care. Who? Bring them in. Man, that could be an acceleration for the Jets. Okay, let's get a couple more in here real quick, and then we'll wrap up the show. Raw Power, where do you sit on the Becton discussion? How concerned should Jet fans be? I think he'll be fine. Important, he hits to redeem something from the 2020 draft. I'll give you kind of a quick version here. Raw Power. Obviously, Mekhi Becton hasn't proven enough yet. Year number one, he missed a bunch of games. He missed even more than the stats say because there was a couple games where he started and then got hurt in the middle of the game, then was out. Then last year, he misses the entire year. And then there's been questions about the weight and motivations and things of that nature. And those are all concerning. But here's how I feel about it. It's impossible to do anything with Mekhi Becton this year. From a financial perspective, there's nothing you can do. There's the dead cap and everything involved. So you have no other choice but to believe in Mekhi Becton. You have no other choice. But you have to hope that with Robert Saleh basically calling him out at the Senior Bowl that says, hey, Tubby, like you better make sure you're in great shape and you show up and you do it because you have to, quote unquote, reassert yourself into the starting lineup. Like he challenged him. He said he called out his manhood and said, hey, bro, you want a spot? Nothing's given. Everything's earned in this league. Earn it. And hopefully he shows up in phenomenal shape and he just shuts everyone up. That's what I think is going to happen. I'm an optimist at heart. I see the glass half full. I believe Mekhi Becton comes up fully recharged and he is a starter, whether that's at left tackle or right tackle. I think he's a starter. He commands a room. They're like, yes, this is why we took him 11th overall. That's how I foresee it playing out. I think one way or another, he's a starter. It would be quite a scenario if, unless he just shows up fat and out of shape and lazy, he's going to be a starter either left tackle or right tackle, because the only other way is if he shows up out of shape and you have George Hewins left tackle and you draft a guy like Icky and he just beats out Becton straight up. Becton's fat ass isn't moving to right guard. So again, I think he's going to hit it right. I think he's going to be properly motivated. The injury last year could have happened to anyone. He got rolled up on. It was Greg Van Roten's fault for blowing the block. Like it could have happened to anyone. I think he shows up properly. But again, even the Becton haters, and there's a lot of them out there that just think he's just a fat piece of lazy garbage. Like, I think he's going to show up. But even to those people, you couldn't do anything with him this year anyway. There's no way you could just – Joe Douglas ain't eating that dead cap. He's also not blowing it up on his first pick ever as the GM of the Jets. I just don't see that. But that's kind of my quick take on it as well. David Goodstein here. Is wide receiver one as important on this team when we run a 2 tight end set? I think regardless, quite frankly, because of the ripple effects it has. I see what you're saying from a base standpoint, depending on the kinds of formations that you have out there. Could you marginalize or minimize the impact of what a number one wide receiver would be? And again, a number one wide receiver is somewhat subjective, as I put the air quotes there out there for the people that are listening to the audio of this podcast. The fact of the matter is this. I think, when it equates to Super Bowl winners and number one wide receivers, although we just had Cooper Kupp, historically speaking, one doesn't lead to the other. A number one wide receiver doesn't equate immediately to Super Bowl success, but I think it has ripple effects on the offense. When you have a guy like Cooper Kupp, as we just used as a light example, where defenders or defense have to think about doubling him, which obviously opens up the entire rest of the offense. I think he can have such a tremendous impact. But also, run your 2 tight end set. They couldn't run that right now. They don't have 2 tight ends. But I'm all for that conversation, right? They signed Dalton Schultz, let's say. They give him the bag. He's a tight end, then they draft a guy. Like, okay, then you could start saying, hey, Paul, maybe they don't need a number one wide receiver as bad. Fine. But I'd rather have more options than less. That's kind of my take on all of this. Keep it simple, RC. Would you fault JD for addressing tight end while ignoring wide receiver, assuming Berrios is re-signed? Yes, I would fault JD. Because tell me what happens at tight end, right? So, okay, Berrios comes back and you feel a little bit better, right? Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Braxton Berrios, but I just think you need more. Tell me what that is. Would I, if he brings in Dalton Schultz and Trey McBride, sure, he ignores wide receiver. I feel a little bit better about that. But if he doesn't have that kind of impact at tight end, it's hard to forgive him. It's hard to forgive him. Keep it simple. Matthias on YouTube, I think Drake London is going to fall in this draft because of his 40, possibly 3rd round. Whoa, mama. Matthias, I don't see that. I think people are going to see a poor man's Brandon Marshall. I think he is going to rise. I think he's going to be a top 20 pick. But, hey, you know what? I respect the take. And then John Hepburn. Hey, Paul. Hey, brother. Guys, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this live The Jet Zone, or those who are listening to the podcast later. Thank you so much. This has been fun to do. I see all the people in the chat again. If you could please take a moment to like the video on YouTube, go over to YouTube. Again, it's youtube.com/boygreen25. Even if right now you're watching on Facebook or Twitter, hop on over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We're in the 830s, 840s range. I want to get to 1,000 before the draft. The draft is in a couple of months. So if we could get to 1,000 subscribers, that would be phenomenal. And I would would love the support. Again, tell a friend, share it with a fellow Jets fan, get them to subscribe, and I'm hoping to do some Jets jersey and other cool giveaways in the future. So, guys, keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun, guys. So cool. Thanks for all the questions and comments and all that jazz. We'll be back again if you want. If you are a new time person to the Boy Green channel, or if you're an old person coming back, whichever, I don't discriminate. We have a show coming up every Monday with a draft insider or draft analyst or insider or anything. We have reporters, everything. Every Monday, we have a brand new guest joining us in a brand new episode every Monday to talk Jets draft nuggets. We'll have the combine obviously coming up this week and so much as well. And so we'll keep an eye out for that. And I'll do a couple of quick things as I see this here. Thanks for a good show. Thank you so much, David. Free agent DJ Chark. I like it. I think he's a nice dart throw, by the way, coming out. And will I be live streaming draft day? That's a good point. Keep it simple, RC. I've never done that before, but maybe if that's what you, the people, want, tweet at me and let me know. That's something you guys would be interested in, and I would be open, certainly, to doing that. I've never done it before, but if you guys would like that, I think we can make that happen. So keep me posted on that. All right, thanks, everybody. Again, thanks for showing your support. We will see you next week for a Jet Zone episode, and coming up on Monday, a brand new Mock Draft Monday. Thanks, everybody. Peace out, baby. Enjoy your week. See ya.